teacher.
Okay, at 6:30, we'll call the December Sawyer County Board of Supervisors meeting to order, please. Madam Clerk, may we have roll call?
Dale Schluter, Jesse Betcher, Tweed Schuman,
Here.
Stacy Hessel, Mark Helwig, Tom Duffy, Bruce Paulson, Brian Bizinet.
Here.
He's online.
Yeah, here.
Chuck Van Etten, Dale Olson, Dawn Pettit. Online.
Don Pettit.
Ron Kinsley, Ron Buckholz, Ed Peters.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Okay, let the record indicate we have a quorum, a full board. Thank you all. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
States of America,
Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
for all. Mr.
Madam
Chairman,
Clerk,
this is
certification
Dawn
of
Pettit. I am
compliance.
here.
With open to meetings law. Thank you, Don.
Yes, this meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you. Meeting agenda has been presented. Moving on to number 6, appointments. Letter A, County Board Supervisor, District 5. We have a vacancy in District 5 due to the resignation of Board Supervisor, Mr. Jim Schlender. And we have a recommendation for approval to the board, a Mr. Jason Weaver. Jason, please come to the podium. State your name, address. Just a few
Hello.
words, please, sir.
Jason Weaver, 13267 West Indian Lake Road, Hayward, Wisconsin. I serve on various boards or have served on a lot of boards, currently with Jump River Electric as vice chair, EDC, the Public Safety Commission for Louis. And when I heard Jim resigned, I thought that I would offer my hat in the ring, I guess, to sit in and help the board out as much as I can. I've worked in, currently work with the Louis Schools as facility director, and I'm a small business owner in the county, so I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve Mr. Weaver's, Mr. Duffy.
I move we approve it.
Okay, Mr. Paulson, motion by Mr. Duffy, second by Mr. Paulson to approve District 5 Supervisor as Mr. Jason Weaver. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Mr. Weaver, why don't you come up and judge your honor, please?
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Jason Weaver, do solemnly swear. I, Jason Weaver, do solemnly swear. That I will support the Constitution of the United States. That I will support the Constitution of the United States. And the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin. And the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin. And will faithfully and impartially. Discharge the duties. Of the office. Of Sawyer County Supervisor. To the best of my ability. So help me God.
Mr. Weaver, yeah, you can take a seat
Thank you,
next
sir.
to Ms. Hessel. That's right. That's where we start all our supervisors. Ms. Hessel. Okay. Moving on then to letter, thank you, Your Honor, appreciate that. Moving on then, folks, to appointment C, D, E, and F. The newly appointed Mr. Weaver then would sit on the committees of Mr. Schlender's positions, including the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee, Public Safety Committee, Economic Development UW Extension Committee, and as our LCO Library Committee representative. entertain a motion to approve those committee assignments. Mr. Duffy?
I move.
Okay. Okay, again, motion by Mr. Duffy, second by Mr. Paulson to approve those committee assignments to Mr. Weaver. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, letter G. Welcome, Mr. Weaver. Letter G, Sawyer County Treasurer. As everyone knows, we have a vacancy, or we'll be having a vacancy in our Sawyer County Treasurer position as Diane Ince is retiring, and God bless her. She did a wonderful job here, but I'll turn it over now to Mr. Hoff as we have a candidate, and he will explain further before we have a motion.
Yeah, just wanted to go over the statute regarding a vacancy in a county clerk position. Statute 17.21 dictates what happens when there is a vacancy in the middle of a term of county treasurer. So the county board does appoint a new county treasurer, and you can appoint that person for the remainder of the unexpired term, which ends in the end of 24. So that's the full term. You also have the option of running a special election, and the statute does dictate when that can occur. And since this is happening after December 1st of this year, if you elected to have a special election, then that would occur in the fall election. So if you made an appointment for the remainder of the term, it would be through the end of 24. If you wanted a special election, that would occur in the fall of 22. However, we do have a candidate for that position who is in a current position, and she would take the county treasurer position if it was the remainder of the term. She wouldn't want to leave a position that she's in that was only an 8-month position. So
Correct.
That's the regulations that you have to work with.
So at this time, then I would entertain a motion that when we do fill the Sawyer County Treasurer position, that it is for the entire unexpired term, which would be the end of 2024, correct, Mr. Hoff? Yes. Okay. Okay, motion by Mr. Kinsley, second by Mr. Olson. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right, so our candidate, Mr. Hoff?
The candidate being put forward is Janine Abrick. She currently works in the County Highway Department, and she is interested in taking this position.
Entertain a motion to approve. Motion by Ms. Hessel. Second by Mr. Paulson to appoint Janine Abrick to the Sawyer County Treasurer position for the entire unexpired term on the retirement of Miss Diane Ince. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on then to letter H. Emergency Management Director. Mr. Hoff, we also have a vacancy there due to retirement.
Yes, due to the retirement of Pat Sanchez, who has held that position for the last few years, who is retiring at the end of this year. And we've appreciated her efforts. Our current ambulance director, Nate Dunstan, who has a degree in emergency management, we've tapped him for this position. It is a director position within the county. So I have the authority to hire that position, but a director does need county board approval. So you have approval authority over the director position of emergency management director. And Nate is at the podium and ready to give his
Yes.
dissertation.
Mr. Dunstan, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, sir?
Yep, I'm Nate Dunstan. You guys appointed me ambulance director in 2018. It's been a privilege and an honor to serve in that role. And I'm extremely excited to continue on in an extended role. I went to University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh for emergency management. That is my background.
Thank you, sir. Entertain a motion to approve. Mr. Buckholz? Okay, second by Mr. Duffy. Motion by Mr. Buckholz, second by Mr. Duffy to approve appointing Nate Dunstan as our new emergency management director. Is there any further discussion? Yes, sir, Mr. Buckholz.
You're gonna do both positions?
That's correct, yes. Yep.
If there's no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Welcome, Nate.
Thank you, guys.
All right, yep, letter I, Sawyer County Housing Authority, 5-year reappointment. Mr. Paulson, this is Mr. William Lewis, correct?
He's currently on the board. I worked with him. He's a pretty quality guy.
Great. Okay, entertain a motion then to approve the appointment of Mr. William Lewis to the Sawyer County Housing Authority. Motion by Mr. Schleter. Second by Mr. Buckholz. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, public comment. I have 2 people that signed up for public comment. We'll start with Louise Layton, please.
Good evening, all you hardworking county board members. I'm Louise Layton. I'm at 7442W State Highway 70 in the township of Ojibwa, which is in the bottom part of Sawyer County. First of all, congratulations, Mr. Weaver. Good luck and best wishes, Nate. I hope it turns out better for you this time than it did for the last time. It was a double hat position, but I guess we'll try it. So I understand why the appointment of a district representative for Jim Schlender's district had to be before audience of recognition. But I have no idea why the affirmation of the treasurer had to be before public comment, because that is an elected position and that person represents the electorate, not the county board. And I understand that it's hard to take a job not knowing if you're going to keep it, but a public position is a public position, and that's how it is. That's the note. And she is employed in a county office, and you could write an agreement for her if you wanted to, so that if she lost when an election was held, she could still gain her employment back without any loss of service. And that would have been easy to do. And then we could have an election, and it wouldn't cost very much money because we have an election in the fall anyways. Even though it would be a special election, it wouldn't be costly to us. And then the people could have a say in who their elected officials are that they represent. And I'm disappointed that I wasn't able to say that ahead of when you decided to appoint Ms. Abrix to the treasurer position. And also, I did hear at the, I believe it was the administration meeting, that once you train someone in, it's a loss of resource to have to train someone else in. But these are elected positions. They aren't trained. I mean, that office could run if that elected position person never showed up, because there are very talented people there. So yeah, so what is the reason? And I know you're not going to answer me, but I'm really sad that the people don't get a say. And Mr. Hoff, you said that Diane Ince was leaving in the middle of her term, and I guess it is. It's a 4-year term. That means only half of it is going to be gone, and now half of it is by your appointment, when really it should be only 8 months, and then the
Okay, we're
people should
running out of
have their
time, ma'am,
say.
so can you wrap it
I
up, please?
thank you very much. That's all I have to say. But I really would like to know why it wasn't after public comment.
Thank you. Okay, next, Joan Cervenka, please.
Hi, Joan Cervenka, 9970 Benson Road, Hayward, Wisconsin, Township of Hayward. Thank you for having these meetings. Thank you for videotaping them. Thank you for keeping the communication as best as possible in these times. I want to thank you. I sent a meeting. There was a topic at the Land, Water, and Forest Resource meeting that I sent a letter out to everyone here. I don't know. I know Jason didn't give it, so may I?
Yes, yep.
Okay. And I have
And we got them.
copies.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you very much. Copies of that. And I have a handout that goes with that also. I'd like to add. Thank you. I believe in products coming from our county land. I believe that these products are a valuable part of our county economy, and these forest products are a very, very critical, important part of the county financial resource for Sawyer County. It's a very important base, our forest resources that come off the county land. I speak to affirm the letter that I sent you guys. I do not expect you to respond today. Please, I know the rules. The unintended consequences of entering into contracts that have a long-term duration and may change the resource management abilities to cut timber off your county land. I think that unintended consequences needs to be considered. Please go slow. When looking at Blue Source, Bayfield County, yes, is currently a part of their program. There's another government entity over towards the Iron County. I recognize many forest land management organizations are currently a part of it. Basically, I want to say thank you for reading my email. Thank you for listening to me. But with the topic of Blue Source, I only ask, go slow. If a contract is good and it's a good moneymaker for Sawyer County, great. But if it puts a commitment onto your resources, onto your land, onto your ability to make money off of your county forest for 40 years or more with unknown people. And then we could talk about carbon tax, but I won't do that today. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you for reading my letter. Please go very, very slow with this one. I'm scared of these guys.
Thank you. Mike, is there anybody else online for public comment? Okay. Thank you. Moving on then to letter 8, number 8, sorry. Approval of meeting minutes, November 9, 2021. Motion to approve as presented, Mr. Olson, second by Mr. Duffy. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Number 2, Madam Clerk, please.
Sure, the next item is just the appointment for a 2-year term of the Board of Canvassers for year 22-23. And we have selected, the clerk appoints that board, and the people chosen are Kay Winton and John Bigheimer. And then our 2 municipal clerks who have served this capacity for Carol Williamson in the past are going to make themselves available for assistance in that process. So there's no action needed. We just need to make that public known.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Number 9, COVID update. Julie, are you on?
I am on. I will share my screen and get the update going. Being a little slow, but we'll just process through. Here we go. Okay, so tonight I'm coming to present on COVID again. There hasn't been much change in the last couple of months to report on as far as our level. We have been in a high risk level for the last couple of months. However, it is nice to see that we are dipping down a little bit. Even though we are still in the high level, we are dipping down. And we have noticed that within the last week, testing has reduced as well, which is a good sign that there is less illness in the community. This is the CDC data that I usually give. One of the things I wanted to show was the map of the United States. For quite a while, everything was red, and now we're starting to see where COVID, the Delta, really started down in the southern part of the United States. It is starting to lighten up, so that's good news for us as well. The distribution of cases that we've been seeing since September is demonstrated on this graph. In September, we had 306 cases, 411 in October, and 499 in November. You'll see that it's been nice in November. We started to see the dip come down in the 10 to 19-year-olds. So kind of got through the school. Where I really kind of saw the increases in November is really the 20 to 60-year-old. The other reason for coming forward this evening too is that since October, the hospital has really gotten hit pretty hard with not only COVID cases, but also their normal patient load. So the update from them is their volumes have been high and their acuity remains very high. What that means, acuity means how critical or how much care the patients need that are in there. So they're definitely seeing an increase. This has been a prolonged high inpatient census, which is about 2.5 times higher than it was averaged in 2020. And since about mid-October, 30 to 50%, 35 to 50% of the patients have been COVID, where they are actually requiring treatment for COVID. The other thing that we are seeing with them is that patients who are being treated for COVID do need life-saving treatment. They're on high oxygen flow, have very high needs. In other times, we would have been transferring patients out that were at that level, but we are needing to keep them here because there are no beds available to send patients to. The other thing that we also have noted is that compared to last year, we are seeing patients that are younger. Typically, patients were over 65, 70, 80-year-olds. We are seeing some that are less than 60. The other thing that we're seeing challenges with, and this is across Minnesota and Wisconsin, is that we're having challenges with getting patients moved to rooms or transferred out, which means that patients have been having to stay in the emergency room after we would have considered them admitted. And that's what we call boarding. So, so patients are staying there until we're able to find them a bed. And then they've also had to adjust their surgical patient planning in order to be able to manage things. And again, I've already referred to this, but transfers to tertiary care, which means a higher level of care than what we are here, are very difficult to get. And we tend to have to send people far away, or they have to wait quite a while to receive a bed. The other, I've shown this graph before, as we move forward, we are consistently seeing that more people that are getting COVID have not been vaccinated. And so that is what this has been showing over time. And so this shows that about 5 times more likely to get COVID if you have not been fully vaccinated, 11 times higher to be hospitalized, and 12 times higher to die from COVID. The other thing that has come up since I presented last is a new variant. This is Omicron. This was detected in late November and in the United States in November, and confirmed here in December. This map shows the places where we have seen Omicron across the United States. What I do want to make sure that we focus in on is Delta is still predominant. Omicron has not taken over, and we really don't know much about it. So really what I want to make sure that we're not being really fearful and getting worried about this new variant. We have already have Delta here that has spread quite a bit. We don't know much about Omicron, and it's going to take us several weeks for us to learn more about it. So I just want people to we can listen in, we want to pay attention to what's happening, but we don't know what kind of impact this will have right now. We do believe that it will transmit more easily than the original SARS-CoV-2, but we don't know how that will compare to Delta, if that will even be able to take over from Delta. We also don't know how well our vaccines will work against this, and we don't know how well treatments will continue to work. And again, we'll just have to watch and see. There's a lot of research happening around the world on this. What they do expect to have happen is that the vaccines should protect against severe illness, hospitalizations, and deaths, similar to what we're seeing with Delta. But we are likely going to have breakthrough of infections that will occur. So we continue to expect there to be breakthrough. Really what we're seeing with vaccines that is important is that it reduces the severity and reduces hospitalizations. And the other thing to note is that with our current tests that we have right now, we can detect Omicron, so that that is not impacted by our current testing. Speaking about testing, we opened up a testing site in October through the county, through the health department. This is at the Oasis building on 63. And we are open Monday through Friday by appointment. And we call the main office number for that. And we started mid-October. We tested 126 patients. We averaged about 10 patients per day for testing. And by November, everybody realized that we were there. We tested 561 patients and averaged 30 per day. And we've been averaging that up until about the last week and a half. We started to see the decreases. It's probably down to about 20 per day. So again, it is positive because we do believe that there's less illness in the community. With that said, we are starting to see influenza in Wisconsin and in the northern part of Wisconsin. So just because somebody tests negative for COVID, it does not mean that we don't have another respiratory condition that we do need to keep track of and be careful with. So if people are continued to be sick with respiratory illness not getting better, we still recommend that you do seek medical treatment or talk to your provider. Oops. I put a slide in there and I got it mixed up here. I already talked through this one, so we'll keep going here. The other thing is the vaccine tracker. We are having about 56.5% of our population in Sawyer County is vaccinated with at least one dose. As you can see, we did start vaccinating 5 to 11-year-olds and all the way up and through. And vaccine clinics are still happening with the health department. We're doing those on Tuesdays and Fridays through December. And then LCO is also vaccinating on Wednesdays. And anybody is able to call and make an appointment at either one of these places that works for your schedule. Boosters are now recommended for ages 16 and up if it has been more than 6 months since your primary since you've had your primary series, or 2 months since you've had J&J, if that was the vaccine that you had chosen. That is it.
Okay, thank you, Julie. Is there any questions anyone has for Julie? Yes, Mr. Betcher.
Yeah, Ms. Lyons, 2 questions. First is, has there been any deaths at all in the United States from the Omicron variant that you're aware of?
Not that I am aware of.
Okay, so probably not that serious then. I understand the cases
Right.
are pretty mild symptoms or no symptoms at all. And then my other question, I asked several months ago if you had, if you could provide the average or median age of people who have died from COVID in Sawyer County. Do you have that information?
You know what, we were just kind of looking through trying to figure out the new ages. I will email that to you, Mr. Richard. I can email that actually to the whole county board.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you. Good.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone online have any questions for Julia? No? All right, thank you very much, Julia. Appreciate all you do.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right, number 10, consideration of 2022 cooperative law enforcement agreement, discussion, possible action. Sheriff Marotek?
About 30 years ago, under the Governor Thompson administration, there was an agreement with the tribes on gaming impact for financial funding for counties and tribes for added law enforcement. So when this originated almost 30 years ago, it was over 100,000, which funded a deputy, full-time deputy, and all the equipment, the squad, everything. Since that time, it's about half that much or less, plus the costs have doubled. So we have resorted to, in recent years, to part-time deputies or deputies on overtime. And it's been a great resource, and us having the ability to give that added law enforcement coverage on the reservation by that added funding. We have had, following legal opinion from our legal counsel, we could not, our office could not come to agreement with the tribe regarding some court jurisdictional issues. To the credit of the chairman, being involved with the LCO council as well, and our chief deputy, they have worked diligently on trying to come up with a plan B to come together here. So it's not a court jurisdictional issue. And with that, we've additionally received several extensions from the Wisconsin Department of Justice to try to come together to accomplish this. With that, we have come to an agreement on behalf of our office and the tribe. It's just under $49,000. So the plan is to work as a joint task force, whether it's for traffic enforcement or criminal activity, it would be jointly. So the joint court jurisdictions, they would be present to deal with their court jurisdiction issues.
Thank you, Sheriff. So I understand we have a resolution then approving the 2022 cooperative law enforcement agreement, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Entertain a motion then to approve the resolution. Mr. Helwig. Motion by Mr. Helwig. Second by Mr. Van Etten. Is there any further discussion on the resolution? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you, Chief Deputy Sedera. Appreciate all your work. Okay, moving on then to number 11, Zoning Committee Chair Report. Mr. Buckholz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do not have much to report, or if any, on what's going on in the zoning office. Jay didn't give me nothing. So with that being said, I would like to go right down into the rezone case.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. We heard one rezone case last month, and a rezone case number 21-010, owner Janet Thompson Trust, parcel number 032-539-27-4402, located in part of southeast quarter of the southeast quarter, CSM number 1341 S27 T39 North R05W, 4.31 total acres, zone agricultural 1. The request for the rezone the entire 4.31 acres to residential recreational 1 with the creation of RR1 lots. It is proposed that the property would be divided into 3 or 4 smaller lots, would be compliant with the proposed zone district subdivision requirements by certified survey map process. This area used to be an old farmstead, an A1 designation, but its area is mostly wooded and is surrounded by other RR1 and A1 property. The town of Winter shows this subject as part of their comprehensive plan as a rural residential. There were 7 opinion letters sent out to the property owners, 300 feet in surrounding area. 6 letters were returned, 3 with objection and 3 with no objection read into the record. The town of Winter approved this rezone request on November 10th, 2021 at the town board meeting. At the Sawyer County zoning public hearing meeting on November 12th, 2021, it was recommended for approval to the county board by a vote of 5-0, with finding of facts determined as it would not be damaging the rights of others and property values, and it would not create an air quality or water supply or pollution problem. So with that being said, looking for
Thank you, Mr.
Motion.
Buckholz. Entertain a motion then to approve.
I'll make
Mr.
a,
Betcher,
so move.
Ms. Hessel.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Betcher, second by Ms. Hessel to approve the resolution on rezone number 21-010. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Buckholz. Moving on then to number 12, Public Safety Committee Chair Report. Mr. Buckholz.
yes, joint powers of the 911 emergency system agreements. We were discussed at the last public safety committee, and I would recommend that the sheriff
Yep.
tell us about this.
Sheriff, can you come up, please?
This is a requirement by state statute. We have to do this annually due to the fact that we dispatch out of our dispatch center emergency services, including fire departments. You may notice there's some towns in Washburn County. It's because those towns are serviced by our county fire departments or town fire departments with agreements there. But because they're dispatched out of our dispatch center, it's an agreement required by state statute annually.
Thank you. Entertain a motion then to approve the Joint Powers 911 Emergency System Agreements. Who, did you, Mr. Buckholz? Motion by Mr. Buckholz, second by Mr. Kinsley to approve the Joint Powers 911 Emergency System Agreements. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, number 13, Public Works Committee Chair Report. Mr. Kinsley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Along with the airport running well and the highway department maintenance, we also have the courthouse remodeling update. We have a copy of the minutes of the meetings that have been taking place. Letter B is to accept the steel bids that we have, and also letter C would be to accept the roofing bids. We also have the honor of having Myron Construction Company on the phone, and that would be Mr. Andrew Daniels and Dave Keening, if you have any questions.
Okay,
So letter B is to accept the bids. They presented the bids to us for steel.
okay, do you want to hear from Myron first, Mr. Kinsley, or go ahead with the motions?
Let's hear from them first, please.
Okay. Myron Construction, are you on the phone?
Yes, Dave Keating, Myron Construction Project Executive here. Just right now, we had an early bid package out for the roofing and the steel. Reason being, those are long lead time materials that we wanted to procure early. So we did get our bids in. You should have the information in front of you, looking to get approval on those bids so we can write contracts and procure that material. The rest of the project then is scheduled to be fully designed and released for the remainder of the project to bid out in January, with the bids being due probably sometime in early February.
Okay, are these steel bids then coming in close to budget?
They have them in front of you on the.
Yeah, I see. Okay.
Sorry, I got muted again. Yes, so the steel actually increased a little bit, but they added some steel for some snow loading that was required over the existing courtroom above yourself right now. So that added steel, but then the roofing bid did come in under budget. with some voluntary alternates by the roofing bidders that we confirmed with the architects are acceptable. If you take those into account, then yes, we're actually under budget from our past budget by about $30,000.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this time, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the steel bid price currently in front of you. Mr. Buckholz.
I make a motion to approve the steel bid.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, second by Mr. Peters. Motion by Mr. Buckholz, second by Mr. Peters to approve the steel bid price presented with letter B. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Letter C, then, Mr. Kinsley, the roofing bid.
We're looking for exception of the roofing bid, discussion possible action. The roofing bid did come in under the estimated price, but would help balance out what the steel was.
Wonderful. Entertain a motion to approve the roofing bid. Ms. Hessel? Okay,
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Hessel. Second by Don. Second by
Ms.
Don.
Pettit.
Thank you, Don. Okay, motion by Ms.
Mhm.
Hessel, second by Ms. Pettit to approve the roofing bid presented at letter C. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Anything else, Mr. Kinsley? Okay, moving on to number 14, Land, Water, Forest Committee Chair Report. Mr. Paulson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have before us a authorization to sell an over-the-counter land bill in the town of Edgewater. The treasurer has recommended it, and the committee is also recommending it to the board for approval.
Okay, Mr. Buckholz,
Make a motion to approve the over-the-counter land sale, town of Edgewater.
Mr. Betcher.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Mr. Buckholz, second by Mr. Betcher to approve the over-the-counter land sale, town of Edgewater, tax ID number 008-937-014207. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Anything else, Mr. Paulson?
That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Number 15, Health and Human Services Board Chair Report, Mr. Schleter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Health and Human Services Board heard reports from all departments and directors. We had the COVID update, discussed the budget. We're still having the same problems with the cost of long-term mental health care. We got our fingers crossed on the budget. There was some discussion and no action taken, but the general consensus was to leave the Oasis building as it is for now, and not to get too eager to sell it or rent it or do anything with it, because we are using it for some different purposes now. Also, the only action item we had was the opioid settlement. Thank you. My mind went blank. The opioid settlement agreement, and Tom is going to go over some more of the details of that.
Mr. Hoff.
Yes, thank you. Before you is consideration of the opioid settlement proposal. As you recall, this is the litigation that the county has been involved with many of the other counties in Wisconsin, a couple of cities in Wisconsin, and nationwide participation in this litigation against the distributors and Johnson & Johnson regarding the opioid situation. So the settlement has been proposed nationwide. In Wisconsin. The documentation that's been provided to you is what is required if you elect to join in the settlement. There's an authorizing resolution that would then allow the county board chair to sign the documentation for the settlement agreements and the MOU for the state of Wisconsin. Again, the share of our allotment or allocation is dependent upon how many participants actually do settle. There's also some timing, so we don't know exactly when and how much dollars will flow our way. It will be significant, several $100,000. But that will be determined once they get all of the participants, which are due by January 2nd. So it is important that we take action on this if you are so inclined this month, so that we can submit this documentation before the January 2nd deadline. And I can answer any other questions if you have.
Thank you.
any.
So at this time, then I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution authorizing Sawyer County to enter the opioid settlement. Mr. Schluter,
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Hellwig.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Schluter, second by Mr. Hellwig to approve the resolution 2021 authorizing Sawyer County to enter the opioid settlement. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Anything else, Mr. Schluter, on Health and Human Services?
No.
Okay, thank you. Number 16, unicode codification update. Information only. Mr. Hoff?
Thank you. We've discussed this for several months now, and this is the product that we've been working on in making our ordinances, codifying them into an organized set of ordinances. So we've taken all of the ordinances that were enacted previously and had them organized and updated. There was a lot of statutory changes since these things were enacted. A lot of them, the older ordinances had to be updated because they had references to state statutes that no longer exist or had been changed. So all those kind of things were updated. This is for your review. We'll also pass this out to the departments to make sure that all of their ordinances are reflected and reflected properly. Once we go through that review process, the board will then be asked to enact these ordinances, which will effectively redo all of the ordinances and undo all of the previous ordinances and redo this in a organized fashion. So the intent is not to change any of the ordinances that have been previously enacted, but to update them statutorily wise, language wise, and organization wise. Rebecca Roker has been instrumental in doing the initial review with Unicode to make sure that all of these references are correct. And I don't know if you have any other information or documentation to provide, but that's where we're at with the process. So no action is required now other than your review to make sure that those committees that you're responsible for, if those are reflected in there and whatnot, and we'll do the same with the departments and then come back with a final draft for you to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Hoff. Ms. Roker, do you have anything to add to that? You're good? Appreciate all your help. Thank you. All right, thank you, Mr. Hoff. Any questions for Mr. Hoff on the codification update? Okay, moving on then, number 17, Finance Committee Chair Report, Mr. Paulson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I address the agenda items, I would like to thank Ms. Inns for her many years of service to the folks of Sawyer County. I'm sorry personally to see her go, but I understand the need for retirement, and thank you very much for what you've done.
Let's take a minute. 23 years, correct? Thank you very much.
The item 17A is authorization to change signatories. Mr. Hoff, I believe this is just to remove the treasurer and add the newly appointed treasurer to the signatories.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Kinsley, second by Mr. Buckholz to approve the signer authorized for financial institutions from Diane Inns, to Miss Janine Abrick. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Letter B, sir.
Okay, at the final budget review meeting in November, the board approved $50,000 for the Hayward Lakes Visitor and Convention Bureau, 40,000 of it to come from ARPA funds. This is a resolution to codify the ARPA fund allocation.
Thank you, Ms. Hessel.
Make a motion to approve the resolution of the ARPA fund spending to the Hayward Lakes Visitors Bureau.
Mr. Helwig? Okay, motion by Ms. Helwig, second, Ms. Hessel, second by Mr. Helwig to approve the resolution authorizing use of ARPA funds to the Hayward Lakes Visitor and Convention Bureau. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I am going to vote no for this resolution because I do not think the Visitors and Convention Bureau needs to take taxpayer money. It strikes me as the Visitor and Convention Bureau is really being greedy. And here's why I don't think the Visitors Convention Bureau need $50,000, $40,050 from the county. Middle of July, they had a cash balance, an unused cash balance of $210,000. That's almost $250,000. They're in 2018, their room tax revenue was $62,000. Budget for adjusted budget for 2022 is $204,000. That's an increase of $142,000, almost. That's more than triple their room tax for 2018. And they also just received a grant for $90,000 with a cash balance of $210,000, $142,000 of additional room tax revenue and a $90,000 grant. Does that look like an organization that really needs county support? I don't think so. The VCB told us that they can't use room tax to support building, maintenance of the building and upkeep of the building. A layman's reading of the state statute would indicate otherwise, that they can use that. And I believe other visitor and convention bureaus around the state do use it. I really hope somebody takes a deep dive into the finances of the VCB and that they make all of those discoveries public. I think reading in the December 8th Sawyer County Record, at least one citizen understands that the VCB doesn't need the money. And aside, there are two large resorts in Bass Lake. And neither one of those resorts are members of the VCB. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, in discussion, Mr. Schleter.
Oh,
Mr.
okay, as long as you.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with Bruce. I was very disappointed after we passed the 40,000 to make 50,000 to read just a few days later that they had been awarded a 90,000 or approximately $90,000 grant. They were standing there telling us about their budget needs, and they never mentioned this grant coming in. It boggles the imagination. And I've also heard from township chairs that they are disappointed in the fact that the main reason they agreed to this, to do the taxing, was to ease the tax burden on the citizens of Sawyer County. And that's not happening. So I'm going to join Bruce in voting against this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Betcher.
So I have a question, if that's okay. Just for my clarification, do we have to do a resolution every time we approve ARPA funds? I don't remember if we have to do that every time, or is this unique?
Mr. Hoff.
Yes, the other two times that we've used ARPA funds, we had a resolution supporting that. And this is on the agenda to do the same thing, just so that we have a file of all of the ARPA expenditures in case we have a future audit. We have documentation that says that the use complies with the ARPA regulations and that it's approved by the board.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I'll just add that I'm definitely voting in support of this. being on the Economic Development Committee, I'm well aware of how everything that the Hayward Lakes Visitor Convention Bureau does for us in, tourism being basically the lifeblood of our economy up here in Sawyer County. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have a motion on the floor by Ms. Hessel, second by Mr. Hellwig, to approve the resolution authorizing use of ARPA funds for the Hayward Lakes Visitor and Convention Bureau. Is there any further discussion? Anybody online, Mike? Ms. Hessel?
Just for further discussion, I think that we should bring the library into that conversation if we're going to ask for a definition of fund use. I don't think people should get reprimanded for doing a good job. They should be rewarded. And I don't see how this wouldn't pass because they brought in our sales tax so that we can run our county. So they brought that up because of the visitors. Thank you.
Okay, I've had a request for a roll call vote, correct, Mr. Buckholz? Madam Clerk, roll call vote on resolution authorizing use of ARPA funds.
Mr. Betcher.
Yes.
Mr. Schleter.
No.
Mr. Schuman.
Yes.
Ms. Hessel.
Yes.
Mr. Weaver.
Yes.
Mr. Hellwig.
Yes.
Mr. Duffy.
Yes.
Mr. Paulson.
No.
Mr. Bissonette.
Yes.
Mr. Van Etten.
Yes.
Mr. Olson.
Yes.
Ms. Pettit.
No.
Mr. Kinsley. Mr. Buckholz.
Yes.
Mr. Peters.
No.
We had 4 nays.
Okay, motion carries. Mr. Paulson, is there anything else on the Finance Committee report, sir?
That concludes my report. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Number 18, Economic Development UW Extension Chair Report, Mr. Duffy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a short report. We met on December 6th. The town of Hayward is asking for a letter of support for a TAP grant for a pedestrian and bicycle path that circles the town of Hayward. There's no funds required from the county. They're just looking for a letter of support, and they're coming back next month to present with us a resolution. We heard then from the Bureau, Visitors Bureau. They showed up with copies of the new vacation guide. These are given to sports shows and through the office. They're printed 80,000 this year. And also they will receive an $89,000 grant from the governor for a silent sport grant. They also informed us that on the Outside magazine, which is a very popular sports magazine, Hayward has been named in the top 25 sports trips and vacation spots in the US, which is kind of nice. So
Yeah,
that completes my report.
Okay, Mr. Betcher.
I think it was a top 25 in the world.
In the world, I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's amazing.
It is
Thank you.
amazing.
Yes. Okay, any other questions, concerns from Mr. Duffy or Mr. Betcher with the Economic Development Committee? Anybody online, Mike? Okay, all right, thank you, Mr. Duffy, appreciate that.
welcome.
Okay, moving on into, let's see. We're gonna skip 19 and we're gonna go to, oh, 19. 19, County Administrator's Report.
Well, thank you, Mr.
Can you
Chair.
keep it brief, Mr. Hoff?
All right. Well, most of my thunder has been stolen anyway from what I had written because we've talked about a lot of it. We did take action on the opioid settlement, and that's a good thing. That'll provide some significant resources to tackle that problem. The courthouse renovation, Dave Keating did mention, the bid package, the main bid package will go out in January, and then we'll probably review that in February, committee and county board to award those bids as well. So that construction then would get underway probably in April of 22, April or May at the latest. That will get started. We're still waiting for the final rules on the ARPA usage. And then there's also the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which was passed in November, and we're awaiting recommendations on that and what those dollars will be flowing down into the counties for. So, so that's what I had written. I also had one other item to discuss this evening.
What about the TAD grant?
Oh, sorry, yes.
Google, sir.
the county was awarded a treatment and alternatives and diversion grant. That's the one that we applied for through the state DOJ, and we were awarded about 136,000. We talked with Nikki from Justice Point today about working that into the coordination on what they do for us and adding these funds into that mix and how that will kind of enhance what we're able to do in that capacity in the CJCC, the Criminal Justice Coordinating. So that's a good thing. That'll allow us to apply for other grants next year and in the future to keep those projects going as well.
Okay, that concludes your report, then, sir.
I did have one other item, if I may. I have prepared a letter, but I haven't given it to our board chair yet since he's rather elusive, but I do have a letter that I am giving him to actually formally give notification for my resignation as Sawyer County Administrator. I've been here almost 7 years, have enjoyed the opportunity that I've been given to serve the residents of Sawyer County. But it's time for me to move on and time for you to get somebody else in here to take you on the next step of the journey. So again, I appreciate it. I've got a date in here, a couple of months, February 18th. That's after the February County Board meeting, but I'm certainly willing to work with you in whatever capacity you would want me to help out to make sure that there's a smooth transition. So again, thank you. And it's been great working with you and the staff, and we'll be together a couple more times at least.
But we haven't seen that letter yet. Okay. Wow, Mr. Off. Okay, any questions, concerns with the county administrator's report? Yes, Mr. Van Nett.
Back to the previous, first, are the mics better or is that just me? Everything's working much better. I just kind of like it. We should do karaoke after. Anyway, is that last grant, is that matching or anything? Is it 100%?
That's 100%. The $136,656 that allows us to do some more things that Justice Point is helping us with. So that is a good deal. It's one that is a planning grant. So then next year we'll probably apply for like an implementation grant and keep moving with that process.
And so there, you said next year I'm just for clarification.
I like that, Mr.
Yes,
Van
we
Nett.
as a Sawyer County.
Mr. Buckholz.
Yeah, I just want to speak on top for Mr. Hoffman, all the years that he's done on this county board, that he's never got recognition for. The guy did a heck of a job for us. He's a good advisor. And when I first met him, his hair wasn't quite that white, but it is now. So, so anyway, thanks, Tom.
We probably won't accept that letter though, Mr. Hoff, so. Right, thank you, Stacy. Anybody online, questions, concerns? County administrator, otherwise I'll go with Mr. Duffy.
There's some rumor around that Tom is applying for Aaron Rodgers' job and
Got it, that's an idea too. Okay, so in sad anticipation of this letter, we put number 20 on the county board agenda, which is an ad hoc recruitment committee that we thought we would start to put together. And Rebecca gave me the statute on a creation of an ad hoc committee, which states consistent with part 1, section A10 of the board rules, upon approval of the county board, the resolution, the county administrator committee, or the county administration committee may officially create the ad hoc committee at our next meeting on January 13th, at its next meeting, January 13th, 2021, or at a subsequent meeting thereafter. 22, typo, thank you, Mr. Buckholz. So We're just putting that out there. We've got some board supervisors that have interest in being appointed to this committee on a recruitment for a replacement for our county administrator. We've got some ideas with some companies, Mr. Hoff, that you had relayed to us. Northwest Regional Planning, correct? And was there one other one you were?
Well, there are firms that can help with recruitment and the ad hoc committee can review those and use them if they need to.
Okay, so Ms. Roker, is there anything we need to do at this county board meeting then regarding pursuing an ad hoc committee?
Yes, this is, thank you, sir. This creation of an ad hoc committee within your board rules is a little bit unique, that it actually has to be approved by the board first, as designated by your chair, and then it gets kicked back to the committee that actually will then create the ad hoc committee. So what you're doing tonight is you're approving the creation of the ad hoc committee by the committee. So it's a little clunky, it's a little backwards. One other item I just wanted to mention too, Tweed had referenced, some of the resources available to start the search for your new county administrator. And this is something that Andy Phillips has helped many counties with. I have not as much, but Andy has. And so he's happy to help out as much as possible with questions or referrals or so forth.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Roker. So at this time, then I would entertain a motion that we pursue or an ad hoc recruitment committee creation.
I'll second.
I looked at you myself, so sorry. Motion by Mr. Buckholz, second by Mr. Paulson, then for an ad hoc recruitment committee creation. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. As board chair, I would also entertain any motion or letters of interest from my supervisors who would like to sit on that ad hoc committee. Either way, I'll take it. All right, 21. Reports from conferences, meetings, and other matters for discussion only. Anyone have anything? Anybody online, Mike? Okay. If not, then we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.